welcome to another episode of Financial Fitness. I'm Philip Board, your host, along with my co-host,
Mia Medina,
and special guest,
Tony Nori.
Welcome again, Tony. Thank you for sticking us through. So it's getting a little giddy today. We've been joking around a little bit, but what we're going to talk about today is, I'm going to own this. I've got to make this presentation in front of a whole bunch of financial advisors, and we're about building the winning team. And I thought it'd be great to record about it so that any advisors out there not at this conference will be able to listen to this. So Mia and I have actually given this presentation a number of years in a row, but we keep changing it because we're learning a few things. And I would argue that most financial advisors, when they hire assistants, and I would also say the key for success is you've got to have help. You can't do everything yourself, right? I mean, we've been working together for 21 years now. Yeah. Wouldn't believe it, but 21 years we've been working together. And over that time, the business has grown and we've added more people to it. And the most recent hires we've had, the last 3 people in service, the reason we ended up with these great people was because the advisors they work for treated them as an expense. And I say that with a little disdain because that's how they felt working for the advisors they were working for. Great advisors, I mean, good at their job. But when it came to how they viewed the people that were working for them, they were just taking money from their pocket. And one of the things that I'm going to try and convey to our brethren in the industry is that you can't look at them that way. You know, I look at employees as a force multiplier because they're taking something from me that might be a task that occupies a lot of time, but doesn't necessarily make any money. Like, for instance, compliance. I've got to do it. It's going to keep me in the business, right? Have to. But does it make me any money? Well, one could argue, well, if it keeps you in the business, it makes you money, right? At least you're not going to get sued or thrown in jail. So, but realistically, when you're doing the planning for everybody and what have you. So over the years, I started with myself and Mia, and actually my wife worked first back then when we started, to now, what do we have, like 9?
Yeah, there's 9 of us now.
9 of us now, plus advisors, right? Mm-hmm. So we're significantly larger. And my thought process on as being an advisor has changed. It's shifted more. So I'm an advisor, but I'm also a CEO, which has also transformed how I think about my clients' money. Like, I'm a CEO for them, like their business, right? So it's really impacted that as well. One of the things that I think a lot of advisors don't understand is the difference between growth and scaling. Because if you ask a room of advisors how many people here want to grow, they'll all raise their hands. And then you ask how many people want to scale, they'll probably all raise their hands, not knowing the difference. And even though we've got this slide here that talks about it, it was summed up to me in a really simple way. Growth is spending $1, making $1.10. Scale is spending $1 and making $10. So how do you get that equation, right? What needs to change in that to happen? So for us, I would say that our systems and our processes are key. And so for me, having Mia on my team, where I said, I think she figures out how to solve the problem, and we end up using all kinds of great tools to do that. When I look at incomes, and this was a slide that you should be able to see on the screen here, where I did some research on how much money you manage versus how much you make versus how many employees should you have. And I can tell you that with systems, you can probably get by with less employees and make a pretty good amount of money for where you are. And you know, for most advisors, they can look at here, and I would argue that most people advisors making under 200,000 have no intention of hiring anybody. I hired you when I think I was barely cracking 100, which is not even on the list. So, oh no, but you were part-time. So yeah, you were a half.
0.5.
You were a 0.5. You're way more than a 0.5 now. You're like a 10 plus. I just want to make that clear. So So, this is a way for them to look at this and decide what they want to do or where they are. So who do you hire first, right? For me, my first hire was basically someone to do data entry, which is where we crossed paths. I needed someone, I'm embarrassed to say, I was scared to hire someone full-time. You were still in school and could only work part-time, which was perfect for me. So she did the data entry for us, and that helped us move our way along. Beyond that, it's now moved into, you're definitely operations, you're COO.
Different level of operations when you first start, right?
Yeah. We are such a different company now. We are so close to needing someone internally for IT, right? And that's like, well, that's a layer of expense you don't look at. We most recently found we don't have someone specifically for marketing. So we're now looking at internships and going down that rabbit hole. So I know you've seen a lot of people, Tony, work in the business. So the people that you have witnessed become the most successful, what are some of the traits that you've seen in some very successful advisors? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, the main thing would be you don't wait until you need the person. You do it, but it's a fine line. You can't get them too early because then there's too much expense. But it's understanding, like you just said, you're starting to know that you need something. You have to ID it and then have the right time. But it's always bringing that person on. You have to continue bring them in. And the rule of thumb, this is a simple one, but for every dollar you spend on an employee, that employee should make you $3 to $4. It's just that simple. And it's not hard to, because most advisors, I'd say you're a little unique, but most advisors take on the stuff they shouldn't do for way, way too long, because they're terrified.
Speaking from experience, perhaps?
Totally from experience. Yes, I would give you that one without a doubt, because they're terrified to spend the extra money. But once
I don't think yours was about money. Yours was about control.
Yeah. I couldn't let go of the details. That's who I was. But to get where you need to, you have to scale up. Exactly what you're talking about.
And what about you, Mia? What have you seen? And granted, you've only been around me, but we've been around other advisors that you might have seen.
I think it's a lot of it's control, right? Like sometimes them not. What I hear a lot is, I don't have time to train.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time. And then obviously beyond the expense, right? So they feel like they're going to fall behind. But what they don't realize is, it's going to take time. But like you said, it's like that fine line between when knowing that you need to hire that person right before you really need them, not wait till last minute.
Yeah, that's a good point. So for instance, we hired somebody on our team. We originally hired them for service, but we realized that they were good at something else. So we've repurposed, and I'm talking about Rachel. Rachel now controls the calendar. Like, if I irritate her, my calendar will be so busy. I don't have time for coffee, lunch, nothing.
We know when you made her mad.
Yeah, we know.
Totally.
And I say that with all the love in the world, because she's got the toughest job in terms of, because if it's too busy, I'm like, oh, I need a break. If it's not busy enough, it's like, what are you doing? So, and then I generally, I might forget to put a 2-day trip on the calendar, which means now she's got to move stuff. So it's probably one of the hardest jobs, but it's certainly one of a job that needs to be done, because, when you look at following up with your clients on reviews and what have you have someone that's doing that for you. That's a big project for an advisor. So that's part of it. You could fold that into a sales assistant, for lack of better terminology, a junior rep. I don't like the term junior because it implies they're less than, but a co-rep that's going to help you with some of the clients that they don't need some hand-holding. They just need a review, or they've got a quick question about should they fund their IRA or their Roth. Having someone licensed that can answer those questions, again, that frees up a lot of time. So And then your service people, of course, have got to do, I mean, that's probably one of the hardest jobs. And for those advisors out there, treat your service people well because they're the ones responsible for making sure that the money flows through when it's supposed to. They keep your clients happy. And clients don't leave you for bad performance. They leave you for bad service. So keep your sales assistants. So in the prior slide, that was my first rendition. I had 4 people. Now we're moving into 6 people where we've got advisors, co-advisors, operations, sales assistants, service assistants, and now we're getting interns. And this was one that we kind of fell across and we're learning more about it. And we're in the process of setting up an intern program. But we're having them, some of them work on the financial services side, on the data entry. Others are working on doing marketing things for us. So I think as you grow, you've got to have that thought. And I would argue, and feel free to chime in. And no, actually, I think you can both comment on this, and you've witnessed this, I've witnessed this. As I've had more work taken from me, it's certainly allowed my mind to come up with solutions to problems I didn't know I had. But you've got to have the capacity to think about it. Would you say you've witnessed that over the last couple of years?
Oh, definitely. And just even as a financial advisor, just being more aware of the market, right? Having the time to figure out, okay, what's going on, keeping up with the economy and politics and all that. But definitely just even growing the business, right? Which a lot of the times when advisors just start, they don't realize that they're running a business.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, most people are just like, well, I'm a financial advisor. Well, no, you're also an entrepreneur. You're a small business owner, and most people don't realize that they've got 2 hats. And you know, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, you're a small business owner. Financial advisor, you're the same thing. You've still got overhead, you've got insurance, you've got, not for your clients, I'm talking for your business, right? So you've got all those things to do, but until you have people that you can delegate.
Well, and let me jump in on that as well. Looking at you, this is a perfect example of it. You have a certain strength, and it's a really powerful one. That strength is to be able to look at things from a 30,000 foot standpoint. Okay. So if you're bogged down, now one thing we all know, we don't give you paperwork because that would be silly. It would never get done. Right?
Correct.
Okay. But when you get bogged down with things that it's not paperwork, but other things that you have to fool with that you shouldn't be fooling with, that strength of yours gets pushed aside.
My Achilles heel, right?
Right. So what I've seen, and we've talked about it multiple times, that the freeing up of your time has allowed your strength to now go to the very top and expand. That's what it does, and that's what it should be. You shouldn't be doing anything that's not your strength, and the strength gets better and better and better. That's what I've noticed that's happened.
That's true. Would you have had the strength and the skill set that you're at now if you were bogged down with everything?
No, not at all. Not even close. Like the time to even film this would have been like a totally, no, there's no way I could go record a podcast. That's insane. Are you nuts? I've got too much work to do, right? So thank you. I find that as a huge compliment coming from especially the both of you. But you're right. Had I not freed up my time. Now, I also want to talk about something else you've got to be cognizant of as a business owner. What allowed me to have a lot of time was that Mia took work from me. And then, so I wasn't the bottleneck anymore. I'm as happy as a lark. Somebody else became the bottleneck. And, don't get me wrong, managing great, but you could see that I don't have enough time, which is where when we hired our last round of assistants, I was asked, can we hire both the 2 final candidates? And I'm like, yes, as long as you find ways to delegate some of your work to each one of them, knowing that one of them might have ended up being your assistant. As it's turned out, they each have unique skill sets where she's been able to pass different bits of work to each one of them. And they're both very happy to be doing that stuff because it's their skill set.
And it goes back to the point of, when do you know? And sometimes you have to do it before you may know you need it, but you're not ready to do it.
Yeah.
But you take that extra step, and then all of a sudden you look back and go, why didn't we do this 6 months ago?
Right.
Yeah, that kind of situation.
Even then, when you start interviewing and hiring for an assistant, it's realizing, okay, this is what they're going to do right now, but what kind of skill set do they have that they might take on in order for them to grow as well within the company?
Yeah, it's true. And I know we're going to talk about hiring shortly. Hire to capacity. I mean, hire to create capacity, not because this is what happens. If you get so busy that you need somebody, you don't have time to go through the process to hire them correctly. So you hire the wrong people. Then you're not happy that you're not getting the work done that you want. And it's just catch-22.
Vicious cycle.
Yep. And I would argue that most of the time service assistants fail is because the advisor hired the wrong people, they didn't have training in place, or they're not a good delegator. I would argue that's the case. I'd also say that not all offices are created equal, right? I think we've seen that in our own industry, where the level of service that ours gives because of our systems and process, I would say is higher. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, again, going back, that's one of the reasons why I came to one-on-one.
Yeah.
Was because of that. You could see it. It wasn't some, here's this magic pill we have that is in this nice little gold box that we never open.
Yeah.
It was part of the DNA of what one-on-one is. I mean, if you break it down, that's the DNA of who you guys are.
Yeah, it's true. And what we've also noticed is that some wrong hires, if you're an office that focuses only on managed money, but you're hiring someone that's come from an insurance background, they only know how to do insurance work. Conversely, you do insurance work and you're hiring one that's come from an RIA or a bank, right? And they don't know the product, right? So you've got to make sure you hire people with at least a basic skill set. One of the ones that like for us, a non-starter, is they've got to at least know the difference between an IRA and a non-qualified account.
Right.
I mean, it's like, okay, that doesn't mean to say they get the job, but that's like a basic litmus test, right? So one of the things that I think Mia's done a really good job of is creating a clear job description. So not that a lot of people read them. It'll be apply all, and we'll call them up and like, which job is this? So there's that happens. But now, what are some of the keywords, or what are some of the things you put in? I don't even know what the last job description read. Talk about not knowing, right?
I think a lot of it is being very clear on what the role is going to be and what it entails. Because I feel like, obviously if someone's looking for a job, they're all going to say the right thing. But it's them really understanding what the job is, right? And I mean, as we hire different assistants throughout the year, the job description does change, right? Just because the business changes. So I think it's just the one that I always like to put in is like, if their resume says RMDs, I'm like, okay, you're golden. You understand RMDs, then you have that clear basics of understanding for the industry, right?
Right.
So I would say like just making sure that it's clear, and then also asking them. Sometimes you call them and offer them come in for an interview. Do they even know what they're applying?
Yeah. So summarize clear job descriptions. And if people listening out there, they're looking for a job with a financial advisor, that job description isn't clear, what's the likelihood of you being successful at it since you don't know what you're getting into, right? Mm-hmm. We would also say that once we get people on, we try and maximize productivity. And this is where advisors, I think, they get in that feedback loop of they're costing me money, right? So if you don't have any systems and processes in place, which means you've got to train them every time, you then get into this, I'll just do it myself. because you're incompetent. No, the advisor hasn't bothered to train the person the way they want it done. Well, having systems and processes, yeah. One of the other things that we look to do is when we hire somebody, we tell them where they are and we tell them where we want to go as a firm and where we see where they might be in it. And if they buy into that and they like that, hey, this company's planning on going somewhere, I want to be part of this, I think that also helps.
Yeah, I think a big thing, especially with us, is making sure that that employee has that growth mindset, right? If you're planning to grow your business and that person's just going to be happy staying in the same position long term, that might work for you for just a little bit, but not long term. So, if you're looking for growth, making sure that you're hiring the people with the same mindset and again, the same culture, like team
you're
culture
right.
as well.
Team culture is a big deal.
And there's one last thing on this that you guys see, again, from me from the outside, it's easy for me to see. You guys have a training system. If it's an operations person, you have scribes. You have.
Oh, you're stealing from my future slide. Did
Oh,
you see this already?
sorry, I didn't realize that.
That's all right.
But
some training systems,
the
right?
training system. You talk about the rep. Well, I can do it myself. That's a rep that doesn't understand if you lose 10 hours, you just gained 1,000 hours.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you're going to lose those 10 or 100 or whatever it is. But again, 4 or 5 things. But again, do you know how to train? Why would a rep train anyway? There should be systems in place, which you guys have. You
have a good point too, because I feel like sometimes some advisors hold on to the system that for some reason didn't end up working out because they don't want to go back and have to start training someone from scratch. If you have the right systems in place to train, if that person were to not work out for whatever reason, it's not going to be that bad starting from scratch because you have the process in the training schedule in place and, like you said, like the scribes or the step-by-steps for a new person to just pick up.
Right. And if someone comes into your office, the first thing you're going to do is not send them out to train on an alt. Okay.
Right.
That's like way down the list. So something that they can do right away. I mean, that's the process.
Right. We even have a process for hiring, but I want to go back to one of the things that you talk about when you're hiring somebody. If a really good financial advisor is worth $1,000+ an hour when they're doing the client face-to-face stuff, for every hour the advisor is not meeting with somebody, that's money that's lost. So if you're spending 20 hours a week on doing the paperwork from the 20 hours a week on the service work, I would argue that most advisors, if they're a solo op, they're spending about 10 hours a week doing client-facing stuff and 30 hours a week doing stuff they shouldn't or more, right? So what's the cost involved in that 30 hours of not hiring, right? The other thing we see is that they hire somebody and they don't do anything. And I will own this. The very first time I think I hired Mia, had no idea this was going on. But 6 months later, I'm like, I don't get it. I'm not making any money. And they said, well, what have you been doing? I'm like, nothing. I just kept doing the same thing I was doing, but I delegated all this stuff and I wasn't backfilling with more phone calls, more
Forgot the marketing side. That
right. It was, so it's like guilty, right? And lo and behold, once I went like, oh, got to backfill. Okay. And that's when things really started to cook. But even we have a hiring process. So Mia, you want to talk about this? Because I have almost nothing to do with this anymore. Like seriously, the last three hires, I didn't meet them until they were at work on their first day. They'd already been hired. So Mia, what's that hiring process?
So obviously posting the job ad, making sure that it's clear, and obviously you're always fine tuning, right? Because then you start realizing the different kind of candidates that you get. So you always fine tune. We either post them in Indeed, ZipRecruiter. But then when it comes to the resume screening, that's what gets interesting because with Indeed, I feel like a lot of people just don't, like you said, they don't read it. They just apply. So really looking into really looking into the resumes and seeing, okay, what kind of skill set does this person have? If they're working at a bank or something, can they can they do the role, right? And a lot of it's like the skill set, not so much, depending on who you're hiring, how much industry related experience they need. After the screening, then there's always a pre-screening interview, kind of get the candidates to know a little bit better. How do they sound on the phone, right? Especially if they're going to be picking up phones. Just kind of getting them to know better and seeing if what they applied is really what they thought the job was going to be.
Yeah, because we've never seen anyone fudge the resume to fit the job, right?
And then we actually do 2 steps. It could be like a Zoom interview for the most part, right? With 2 other assistants, just explaining what the role is, having the candidate really understand what they're getting themselves into. The workload, I think, plays a huge part. You're busy, might be different than our busy, right? So, and that tends to get the assistants overwhelmed pretty quick.
Which we actually had happen. We had somebody come and tell us they worked for $1 million office. The guy wrote 2 cases a month. We're like 20 a week.
Yeah, especially if they're used to working from someone that just does insurance, and then they come to another firm where they do everything, right? The learning curve, I always let them know. I'm like, I don't care how much experience you come with, there is going to be a learning curve with us, and that's just because we use a whole range of investment vehicles, and our technology alone. That's a huge learning process. And then last interview is more like we also do like a personality assessment, right, to get to see, and that's more for getting to know, are they going to be a good fit, right? The way I would talk to someone and address something with an individual might be a little bit different that I would address that with someone else. How do they take feedback, both positive and maybe corrections that need to be made? And that's part of the team culture as well.
Well, the team culture, yeah, but one of the other things is that everybody is, detail orientation is subjective, right? We're all detail oriented, but we're not all detail oriented to the same degree. And like, I can tell you that my detail orientation is horrid. I know this. So I have to be surrounded by people that have great detail orientation and can speak Philip, right? They have to understand that these are my shortfalls, right? Since I'm the guy sitting at the top of the heap, you got to deal with it. I'm not going to change to them. They need to adapt to me. So that that assessment will let us know how detail oriented they are, whether they're an extrovert or an introvert. And like one of the things that we learn from it, it's not necessarily about, like, if you want to, there are people that they want to be congratulations, Tony, on him. You're doing an awesome job, and make a big deal out of it. Conversely, you're like, no, don't put me on stage, right? And you need to understand how they're going to be, because it helps you become a better leader for them, because they're going to respect you for respecting their boundaries, right? Or acknowledging their what it is they want. So I think that's a key one. So moving on, not to take that away from you.
Yeah, and then the last one, what I liked about different team members interviewing them, it's like they're ultimately the ones that are going to be working with them, right?
True.
For the most part, yeah, they might, you'll meet them and everything, and you'll work with them, but it's the people who they're going to be training with that they're going to learn with. So you want to make sure they all get along. Reduces the overall work drama if there's, if that's even an issue at your place. And then finally, the final job offer, right? You want to make sure that they're within the price range that you're looking for, that they understand that there's benefits, and, if there's any time off, that kind of stuff they do look at. We have seen potential candidates that have no experience, but they're wanting a salary that's out of control, right? So you don't want to waste your time with those people either.
No. And I think, do we write up a job offer? I don't even know. Do we do this?
We do have one, yes.
Okay, so we write up a formal job offer. So it's like one of those things where we're taking them seriously, and rather than like, hey, you want to come work here? So I think that sets the tone as well. And I got to admit it, we've had a range of hiring. We've kissed. I mean, we've had some great employees who I really liked, but we just weren't a good fit. And I've enjoyed working with all of them, right? But ultimately, sometimes we outgrow them, or we've just gone in a direction that doesn't work for them. And it's totally okay for that to happen. So yeah, I've enjoyed working with everybody that's come across our desk.
It happens, but I feel like what's worked best for us is that if we do take and I don't not want even want to call it a step back, but if we do have an employee that doesn't end up working out, it doesn't affect us that much because we know we have a hiring process and we know we have a training process that we could start all over again and not have to struggle. Like I said, some employers tend to hang on to assistants that don't work, because they're afraid of starting from scratch and having to start all over again. And
so
that hasn't been an issue.
So moving on, so the training process, they're hired, right? So this is where your systems and process, even before you hire your first employee, really, really matter. Because if you haven't broken down the steps involved, like, okay, I'm opening an account to manage somebody's money. Sounds simple, right? Well, let's see, there's at least 2 compliance forms that I can think of. I don't know. I don't do them anymore. I just sign off on them. 2 compliance forms that I can think of. You've got to have the app where the money is held, whether it's at Schwab or another custodian. And then maybe there's a transfer form. Maybe we've linked it to a checking account. Maybe there's a money manager overlay. How are they going to learn all this if you're the one telling them? That's where advisors get bogged down in the, I don't have time, right? That getting it from in here to on documentation. So there's a lot of CRMs out there that offer this ability to create a workflow. That workflow is your step-by-step process, where to find what to do when. And then that's just the paperwork. And then you've got to upload it to compliance systems and for approvals and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, this is a complex industry. It is not, you just manage money. The behind the scenes stuff is immense. So your workflows are your training manuals. So, and I know you've been integral in that. Now the people we've hired, they go in and they amend them as they realize that something's changed. And I can't remember, I don't even know how to do it anymore. I think you do, but I know Cassandra does a lot of that as well. So we also empower everybody, say, look, if you see a way to improve the way it works, keep us compliant and don't break any rules, by all means, change it. If you have a doubt, ask us so that we don't break those rules. And by all means, update it. So we empower them to make improvements to their own role. So you talked about a piece of software. And in today's day and age, there is so much awesome software out there. And for the guys that aren't embracing technology, I think you're missing the boat. So I don't remember where I heard about this piece of software, scribehow.com. But I found it, I played with it. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. That's as far as I went with it, and I showed it to Mia. How do we use it? How do you use it?
I would say it could make the most complex task very simple, right? Anytime I need our intern now, right? Anytime I need to delegate something, she's an intern. She doesn't have any industry experience. She just knows she wants to get in the industry. I could break down my process and do the step-by-step as far as like even to the point like what click, right click here, right click that. And in there, I'm able to put little notes in between if I want to explain further like details, but it captures every click on your computer. So you could go from one screen to another and it just kind of flows through. So it's like a step-by-step guide.
So it creates a PDF with instructions on click here, click there, click. I mean, it's crazy how cool this stuff is. And it automatically turns it into a PDF. So you can build your SOPs quite quickly by doing the work that you're doing. So any advisor that's planning on moving from growth to scale, I would argue, pay the money for Scribe. It's pretty cheap. I think I pay 5 licenses for $75 a month or something. And I know they're using them all the time. I don't, but I know my staff.
It's all electronic too. So it's a PDF version, but you could create your own like subfolders to organize all the.
This is the stuff you're not even seeing behind the scenes, right?
No, yeah, I've been watching this one. That's why I brought it up because it's really cool. It's a very cool program.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Is it AI? Probably. I don't know, but it's a pretty cool program for what it is. So I would argue that, if you get your CRM, start building workflows, and do a scribe while you're building a workflow so you can teach somebody how to create a workflow, and maybe you let them do it. I don't know, but it's something. So once we hire somebody, though, that's when the real work starts. And I think you can't just throw them in the deep end and hope it works out. I think you need to give them a little bit of time. So, Mia, back to you. You've created this. What's the first day? Our business
Technology overview, right? And I always say it's simple. Don't expect to learn it all in one day. Just get an idea of all the technology that we have and start learning how to navigate between what software is for what, right? So that usually happens on day one and day two. Day three, then it's basic admin basics and service tasks, right? So at that point, they get more of the hands-on on working on a task. That way they could try on navigating from software to software, remembering where to go. Obviously,
like what's a basic task?
Like say like a distribution request, right? Client calls in, take in the information. Okay, I got to go to the CRM, write in the note. Gets you thinking about which one's my CRM. Okay, I need to call the company, get that information. Where do I even look to see what the assets the client has? So them just doing that simple task as far as like processing a distribution allows them to start working with the different software and navigating through each. Because,
So how many days before they're allowed to answer the phone?
Probably I would have an expectation at least by Friday.
Like day 5. So think about that. You hire someone brand new and they don't even answer the phone until they've been there almost a week. Right?
Because that allows them to hear the conversations between other assistants too, right? And that's what's the nice thing. You're working next to someone else that you could at least shadow for a day or two and figure out, okay, this is how that person does it. This is how this person picks up the phone. And it kind of guides them to not just throw them in the deep end.
So if I were a solo advisor and I'm thinking about hiring my first person and I've got some scribes, and so what do you think? Should it be any different? Should that person just sit next to the advisor for the first week?
At least. Right? I've seen most of our assistants that came from a firm that had no training. That's what they like so much about us, that they don't feel that they're alone.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
That they don't feel like usually they just say, here, figure it out. And then now they have to navigate through working through the systems and figuring out who to call. When you have a process in place, yes, a little bit's going to be them hands-on, but at least there's a guide they could follow.
I would add something to that too. You have a lot of people that come in that even if they've been in the financial industry, they have one job and one job only. And they do it for a very long time. When they walk into your office, now there's just a plethora of things that's done because everyone has some things that they do, but by having these, it allows them to easily integrate. They've been in the industry, but they haven't maybe done this or that. And that system's amazing for bringing them in that way.
Thank you, Tony. All right. So employee retention strategies. One of the things I've seen is advisors are like, oh, I'm going to keep them at 1099. And then they complain that the employee doesn't show up. Like, dude, they're a 1099. They're not accountable to you in any way, shape, or form. So W-2, hire them as an employee. Come on, put on your big boy pants and be a boss. Own your own business. Get some workers' comp. It's not that bad. Office staff are cheap for workers' comp. We offer, I would say, being in the financial services industry, you're not offering some sort of retirement package. Come on, man. You got to do it. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your clients. Do it for your people as well. And then, of course, some performance incentives on what have you, and giving them a path up and a path to grow. Now, we can go through technology, and it's going to be different for each office. I know ours is pretty tech heavy, but you got to have a great CRM. That's your main gold mine, if you will. Beyond that, Laser app, DocuSign, Laserfish, whatever your firm has. So I would say your roadmap here is pretty simple. You got to be strategic in your hiring. You got to have efficient systems and processes. Some performance matrix, KPIs. That's an industry, not our industry, but a lot of companies run on key performance indicators? What are their metrics for job performance? Is it that very few calls come through to the advisor that are related to, I don't know, a check request or an address update? Or maybe it's once they're trained up, maybe it's what we call a NIGO, not in good order, right? If I'm having paperwork come back because it's missing a checkbox, that might be a matrix that somebody is gauged by. Conversely, if you're an advisor, there should be matrix for your performance as well. Two-way street. And then, of course, opportunities to continue to grow. And we're encouraging all of our people to use AI. I don't know where it's going to go, but if you can find a way to make AI work for us, by all means, try it. Don't look at me like I need to figure out AI for your department. If you think of something, by all means, run with it. So that's kind of an overview of how we do our hiring. What do you think? We missed anything on that?
No, touch all the bases.
What I didn't hear is people's best. Is that?
Well,
I call it personality profiling.
We used personality profiling because there's different ones out there. For the personality profiling, we use a piece of software called People Best, which we really like because I can get one done on Tony, one done on Mia, one done on me, and we can overlay each other to see how we interact with each other, which is why you're seeing that we've got a pretty good comfort level because we know each other's personality. There's no I don't know, are they going to be offended by this or what have you? So, so we do use that. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I know it's not for the general public out there, but you financial advisors out there that can attend our conference this week, maybe you get to listen to this. So thank you for attending another episode of Financial Fitness. Thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
And thank you as always, Mia.
Of course.
Hope you found today's content interesting. By all means, like and subscribe. You can also listen to us on all the popular streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. We're on all of them. Look forward to hearing you there too. Thank you.